You know, it's extremely difficult for a lot of people to understand workings of spirit, because some part of them likes to know there are spiritual things, and the other part of them that has never seen the spiritual things doesn't know about that. And so they like to encapsulate all the world in terms of what they know and put all the spirit in the same form. And yet everybody who is involved in spiritual work will tell you that to struggle with your mind in terms of spirit is to waste your time. How can that is finite comprehend that is infinite? How can it be done? How can you do that? If you have a method, would you please come now, right this moment, up to this microphone over here and tell me how to do that? I'll give pause while you do that. Well, if you're not going to do it, then I would suggest you don't struggle with your mind with what I'm going to tell you. Because you're just going to be proving the point that I'm wasting my time. And I don't care to waste my time, I don't care to waste your time in terms of physical level. In terms of the spiritual, there's no such thing, because it's always present. So it doesn't matter if we do anything or we don't do anything, and it doesn't matter whether you understand or you don't understand in terms of spirit. It matters to you in terms of your ego. But who wants to live your ego? And it matters to you in terms of your pride. And who wants to live that? I'm too busy living my own. And I hope you'd be too busy living your own so that you'd leave mine alone. And then we can move on to the next level. You see, we often feel that we have nothing to give spiritually. And we entertain then resentment against those people that do have something to give spiritually. But then we, in our minds, sit and we belittle them and pick on them and find all sorts of excuses to deny what they tell us, thinking that that denial is going to make something right, or that it will dismiss something. That's about as effective as getting a notice from the Internal Revenue Service that you're being audited and try to dismiss it mentally and see if it happens. All the time you've dismissed it, you're dying, because you're afraid they're going to find out what you know they should find out if they're doing a good job. And that hurts. But after all, you're the one that did it. And so in that last moment, you then cry out to God to intercede for you and make all your errors right. And to then justify your eternal ignorance and make it all correct upon the whim of now you're being audited. And prior to that, you would hope that God wouldn't know about it so you could get away with it. How do you work with people who do those type of things? Then they approach you in terms of the mind and say, I don't understand what you said. And I wished I could. These people are well on their way to a nervous breakdown and mental illness, because that secret resentfulness is going to trip them up. Then they start making their decisions in life based upon other people's opinions. And since they can't really know what that other person is thinking, their decisions more often than not come up with error. Then they start feeling the fatigue of defeat. And they start to feel that no matter what they do, it's going to turn out wrong. And so again, they'll cry out to God to help. And they say, oh God, help me get over the nervousness. And God says, stop doing those things that make you nervous. And you say, I don't want to do that. I want to continue doing the things that make me nervous, and I want you to knock out the nervousness. And God just ignores you. And then you try to get in a fight with God or one of the emissaries of Spirit, and they look at you and laugh and go on about their business. And that just gives you more fuel to shoot. And you end up with nothing. Then you cry out, there is no God, and think that makes it true. These type of people are by far better off in those places called custodial care. Being upset is an inferior way of handling the world. It doesn't make it right because you're freaking out or you're upset. It doesn't do it. And a lot of people don't like to hear that because they like to freak out, but they don't like the results of the freak out because it drives them crazy. And they say, but I want my freedom to freak out. It's like then you get this that goes with it. They say, but I don't want that. You say, fine, you don't have to have it. They say, but why do I have it? We say, because that goes with that. They say, well, I don't want to believe that. You say, you don't have to believe that. They say, well, why do I have these problems? We say, because that goes with that. And they say, I hate you. You say, fine, it's not my idea that it goes with that. I just happen to see that it goes with that, and I told you. If you don't like that idea, tough. It's not my idea. And then they say, I want freedom. And I say, good luck. Because you're not doing good management. And there's no way you're going to end up with anything other than upset and an inferior approach to your reality. How often can you see the truth manifested in front of you and grasp it and gain freedom, or must you continually play the fool, reside in your ego, resist with your pride, and fall flat on your face and look dignified? It takes a great deal of talent and practice. And some of you are getting a lot of practice. And believe me, I admire you tremendously. My God, I was never able to do that. I always looked the fool. I always felt the fool. And when somebody described it, I knew who they were talking about. I didn't like to hear it. But if they said, gee, you sure were good at that, and I'd say, oh, Lord, what a liar. I know that I wasn't good at it. Sure, I'd like you to tell me I was. That'd be the nicest thing in the world to hear, but that's a lie. And so they tell you what you want to hear, and all along in your heart, you no longer believe them nor trust them. Because you know they're setting you up for the kill. And so you resent them for telling you how nice you are when you know how bad you are. Do you want them to tell you how bad you are? You couldn't take it. Why? You'd have to give up those things you're doing that you know are wrong. Who determines the wrong? You determine the wrong. Can I determine it for you? You bet your life I could determine it for you. And once I determine it for you, you're in it. And that's why I won't determine it for you. But I do determine it for myself. It's called integrity. That means oneness without a second nor a third. And to have that, you must have character. And to have character, you must have courage to look. And that courage is going to rip you every way. It will rip you every way. And the only thing that will be left after you get through is the pure, unadulterated form that you are, that you've been praying for, that you've been scheming for, all these existences, it can be presented to you if you will give up that would destroy you. It's too hard. I'd have to give up my bad habits. I'd have to give up my secret resentments. I'd have to give up the idea that you don't know what you're talking about. Well, whoever said I knew what I was talking about? I just know the truth. Very frankly, that's all I care to know. And I'll let everybody else handle everything else, because I'm very, very poor at it. I just have a hard time living fantasy and illusion. It's so difficult. Then they say the truth will set you free. Oh, maybe. If I could possibly just stay in my little cubicle where I live and not come out in this cold world, I might feel free. But in the physical body, there are restrictions. I know you don't like them. You came here thinking you'd be God. And so did 4 billion other people. So good luck. How do we handle then all of these disturbances? Endless patience. You say, not me. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to tell them a thing or two. Tell them 15 or 20 things. They're not going to pay attention to that either. They're not going to be listening to you. They want to be listening to what they have to tell themselves in their mind. And then they hear their mind speak something to them that they've never heard before, as far as they know. And they say, I now have the message of God. And out comes false doctrine. Before you ever say it, try it out on yourself first to see if it works. And then if it works, the only way you can pass it on is, look, I heard this, I tried it, it worked for me. Let me tell you, you see if it works for you. And they say that the truth, say, work it and see. That's how we come to truth. Not by declaring truth do we come to truth. Not by declaring an end do we come to an end. The end declares itself when you come to it. People have come to me and they say, well, I feel my work is over on this planet. I say, then die. They look at me like, what kind of an idiot are you? God's idiot. Then what do we do? Your work is not over here until you die from the planet. You may just be stopping various facets of your work to go on to something else, but it's not over until the end is there, and it will tell you. You don't have to tell it. It knows. You're just waiting to find out when that is. And so you very impatiently wait for the end, and when it gets there, you say, not yet. I don't want to go. Allowing people to upset you causes sex problems, family problems, drinking problems, social problems, nervousness, tension, guilt. I could list a lot of them. So how do you stop having people upset you? You upset them first. But how do you do that? Ah, there is a key. To upset them first, your main line of defense is to remain calm and patient, and they'll freak out. And all you have to do is sit there and watch them. That's how you upset them first, by you not getting upset. And if they're as smart as they like to think they are, they're going to be learning from you how you handle them. And then when they remain calm, you're going to say, I'll remain calm right with them. And that's called communication. That's called cooperation. That gives everyone a chance to be involved in the winning process. Nobody can win. Why? Not till the end is there. You may win a segment and lose a whole tremendous amount later on. You see, the thing that happens is when you're unmoved by your enemy, it upsets them. Somebody come on you and start telling you a thing or two. I remember once a person who was a great authority, called a policeman, was telling me something about my driving habits. He pulled me over to tell me about it. And he wanted to know things like, where did I get my driver's license? And I told him where I got it. And he wanted to know how I got it. And I told him how I got it. And he wanted to know where I learned to drive. And I told him that. And by this time, the guy was fuming. And I said, you sure get hot under the collar easy, don't you? And he just looked at me, and he started laughing. Hand me back my license. I put up my wallet, put it in my pocket, watched him as he walked away shaking his head. But believe me, I improved my driving record rapidly. Because if you don't learn from the confrontation, regardless of how it comes out, you're an idiot. It's called stupid. It's called dumb. And so you declare your wrongness, like, yep, I was wrong. The guy did me a favor. He pulled me over and called me a lunatic, said I was driving like a madman. He didn't realize that I must be a good driver. I would have killed everybody. That I gave to myself later on down the road. If I'd have gave it to me in front of him, he'd give me the ticket to go along with it. You remain calm in the midst of adversity, or you have to eat it. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And you always have to eat it if you declare war in the presence of your enemies. So you keep your mouth shut. One of the easiest things to do is that. One of the hardest things to do is that. But who declares most of your trouble for you? Your mouth. Hasn't it been that way? When we shut up, well, they can get us. There is a way. I did it once with one of my staff members. We were doing something. I said, shut up. They said, I didn't say anything. I said, but you were going to. There is always a way to get somebody, if you really want to. And all they had to do was sit and say, all right. You lose immediately because why? The presence of spirit there demonstrates itself to you. And if you don't have the wit to see it, it's too bad. When we're under the spell of emotions, we get into arguments, fights, and family feuds. We rarely do that when we're not under the spell of emotions. And we're usually under the spell of emotions when we want something from them by way of proving a point, getting their body, getting their money, getting their car, proving a point, never accepting their point, or thinking they're going to manipulate us before they do. And so obviously the thing to do is freak out ahead of them and take up all the space so there's no room for them to freak. You win by occupancy. But believe me, the price you have to pay the landlord is terrible, because they hold that over your head from now on. I can't talk to you, you freak out. Every time I say something to you, you go crazy. I don't want to talk to you, get away from me. It's like, but you're the thing I'm after. Why do I want you to get away? I freak out because I want you to know I'm here. It's like, well, there are a lot of ways to let me know you're here other than disturbing me. So we say, how? Leave me alone. But I love you. I can't leave you alone. Do it. I can't. I've got to torment you. It's called karma. It's dumb. It's stupid. Then you say, why? And you say, I can't help myself. And the moment you entertain an excuse in your mind, you lie. The very moment you say, I can't help myself, is when you fall. You may say, I'm having a difficult time finding the right excuse for you. And they're going to probably smile and say, any excuse will do. I say, well, I just love you. That's the best excuse of all. Don't want you to tell me that you hate me. The mere presence of excuse in your mind says your actions are not your own and you have to apologize for them. And you're wrong. Have you ever noticed that? Whenever you go out of your actions for somebody else, and you start making excuses like, well, I didn't really mean to do that, and you fall apart. It's very undignified to be holy and spiritual and fall apart. But what have those got to do with each other? Nothing. So we again come back to, well, why are you doing it? To please you. Don't please me. I will please myself. I know what I want. You just think you know what I want. I know. I'll supply it myself. Don't give me a present. Give me money. I'll buy my own present. But isn't that the truth? They buy you a present. Oh, what a wonderful present. I got to go exchange it. And I can't let them know that I got to go exchange it. How am I going to do this and be justified? And tell them, don't give you a present. Oh, no, I want the present. What is it, greed? Yeah. Okay. But you see, as soon as you own up to it, it's yours. And even though it may be a spirit of wrong, as soon as you claim it and you say, yeah, people, they let it go. They say, okay, at least we know that. And when they let it go, you let it go. And you say it was greed, but I'm going to give it to somebody because I do not need it. And you get very free. But if you say, no, I don't have greed, it's like, why are you excusing it? Why are you making an excuse? Why are you lying? Don't you call me a liar. I'm not. You're calling yourself a liar. I'm just telling you what you're doing. Who gave you a right to tell me what I'm doing? Nobody. I took it. Isn't that what we always do to people we love? We take it. We take advantage. We take this, we take that. What do we give? Nothing. I'm a taker. I never said I'd give anything in this relationship. I said I would take. And so I'm taking. Then take yourself out of here. No, I love you. I must stay. It may be funny, but these situations do abound, don't they? Of course, I bring you all here. You probably wonder why you're here. Not to hurt your feelings. So I tell you things in the spirit of humor, but I tell you the truth. And if you can get a little humor going, you will look at the truth in yourself. And that looking allows you, that moment, to gain freedom. Take it. It's so important that you take it. If you get a moment of joy, of happiness, take it. It doesn't come around that often. If you get a moment of contentment, live in it. Because there are people around who won't want you to do that. They'll think you should suffer for their sake. Let them suffer for their own sake. People try to get me to suffer, and I say, what do you want me to do, bleed? They say, yeah. I say, I am inside. I bleed in these veins, these arteries. They think, well, that's not bleeding. You decide your way, and I'll decide my way. You want a show of blood, bleeding? You bleed yourself. I got mine going the way I like it that way. Why should I give it up for your falderall? Because you're going to give that up in a minute anyway. So here I'm bleeding, and you're down the street with somebody who's not a bloody mess. And what have I gained by that? Nothing. What have you gained by that? Nothing. So why do it? That's important. Why do those things that are nothing, are coming to nothing? Why must we talk in order to make people feel comfortable that we're with them? Why don't we make them feel uncomfortable and shut up? It might be that when we shut up, they feel comfortable, like at last they shut up. When you make decisions that are not your own, and that's possible, you forfeit the right to the result. I could explain it to you, but why should I? You're smart, you're intelligent, you think it out. You solve it. But then when you don't get what you think is yours, maybe it's because it wasn't yours and you didn't have the decision for yourself. So you let it go. I wrote a little note here. I was watching a person the other day do something, and as I watched him do it, I wrote it down, and when I had lunch with them, I said, I want to read you something that's you. And they said, fine. And I had written down this. Everything that excites you emotionally and causes you to lose awareness contributes to its growth and to the ultimate death of the real you. Then we say, well, can't I have excitement? You want to die? Then how do I live in that? There's no living in that. But it feels good. A lot of things feel good. Gorging yourself with rich food feels good. The byproduct is death. It's like, well, what about my emotions? That's a good question. What about your emotions? Well, I really can't move on anything unless I feel like it. Tough luck. Must you always feel good before you can move on good? Can't you do things that are right because it's the right thing to do? Can't you discipline yourself not because it feels good, because it's the right thing to do? Sure you can. Sure you can. How do you do this? By spontaneously and intuitively living in the present and use awareness as your guiding light. By spontaneously and intuitively living, which means you're not going to control the conversation. They'll say this, I'll say that. They'll say this, I'll say that. They'll say this, I'll do that. They say that, and I'll hit them. So I won't say this. I'll do this. Then when they say that, I'll do that. And you call them up on the phone, they say they're not in. You hang it up, you say, well, why aren't they in? I had the conversation all set. You're not spontaneously living. What does that mean? What am I saying in terms of spontaneously and intuitively living? Let go, let God. When we relax, we let go. When we let God, we spontaneously live in the intuitive nature. And the Spirit comes in and guides us through awareness. Now the old cliche, let go and let God, isn't so far-fetched, is it? Because a lot of people say, well, how do I let go and how do I let God? I say, okay, God, do it, and I'm all upset. Relax. Relax. Be patient. Be patient. Yes, you're waiting on the Lord. Isn't it worthwhile to be patient waiting on the Lord? Yeah, but when's He coming? No, relax. Well, I will if I know when He's coming. Never. Well, then there's no need to try anything. I might as well just give up. Right, relax. So you get negative feedback and can do a positive result by giving it up. People come to me and they have a problem. I say, give it up. I'm saying, relax. Be patient. They sit back and they say, well, I just don't understand that. I go up there with this big problem, and he says, relax, give it up. That isn't going to solve my problem. Okay, then you solve your problem. Oh, well, I don't know how to solve my problem. Then relax. Will that solve the problem? No, but it'll be nice while you're in it. Well, what'll happen then? You won't feel distressful. And you will be able to outlast your problem. Oh. Well, I thought you would just wave your magic wand and it would disappear. I did wave the magic wand and it did disappear. Why are you hanging on to it? Because I want to disappear the way I wanted it to disappear because it's my problem. Then have your problem. You didn't help me. I came to you for help and you gave me back my problem. Well, I struggled with you grabbing a hold of it and you kept yanking it out of my hand. I started feeling the fool. So I decided I would relax until you're ready to let go of it. And to let go of it means you sit down over there and you walk 20 feet away and then I'll pick it up. Some people are so fast you have to say 30 feet. Because about the time they think you're going to get it, they think it's a pearl of great price and they run back for it and they say, how come I'm back in the same situation? And I say, I don't know. I often wonder about that myself. Why are you back in that? Well, because I thought it was good. Somebody else was after it. Well, things are like that, you know. So how do we handle all that? We secretly seek out and hate the wrong in others. And it makes you feel good and clean and energized because you're so righteous. And this egotistical point of view, where you set out to destroy evil, makes you feel so great and so good that you end up in hell and you didn't even know it. When you love somebody, you love them. When you love a little baby, you love them. When they dirty their diapers, you don't hate them. And you can't hate the dirty diapers, or they will be upon you. But neither do you have to sit at the table where they are. And so a lot of things you just say, well, that goes with having this. Driving a big expensive car means sometimes more expensive insurance. If you're going to have the car, there's no need to hate the insurance. You might as well love it because it's all part of it. If you're going to get married, then you're going to become at one with another person, there's no need to hate any part of them. They will magnify and amplify that part you hate to show you, even if you don't tell them you hate it. They will intuitively do that. What would you think of someone if their house got on fire and they ran out and grabbed a 5-gallon can of gasoline and threw it on the fire to put it out? You'd probably think something's wrong with them. You don't put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. That's right. That you focus towards comes upon you. People focus upon losing weight. And so they focus upon losing weight. And the last word their basic self hears is weight. And they never get around to thinning up. So they're always focusing upon all the food they're eating that they hate, always complaining and moaning and groaning that they haven't lost the weight, always fighting, always struggling, walking by the cookie jar and the pastry shop. And yet, where do they spend their vacation? In front of those things, fighting it. They lost a long, long time ago. What you want more of is what you focus into. What you want more of. You want more happiness? Don't focus upon your despair. Don't focus upon your resentment. That's not happiness. And yet they say, I want to be happy, but I feel so bad. I say, well, what do you do all the time? Feel bad. So I guess you want that more than happiness. I hate it. I hate it. What do? I spend my time hating it. You're a hateful person. That's why I feel so bad. So? But what can I do about it? Be happy. In a hateful situation? No, get out of it. It's burning on your head. There's nothing you can do. You keep throwing gasoline on the fire around you. You keep hating a hateful situation. Then you expect it to be good. It doesn't work that way. Then we try to overcome the bad habit. And you know how we try to overcome bad habits? Well, first of all, maybe we should look at how they happen. We get an emotional stimulation. That emotional stimulation excites us, and we record that in the emotional body. Then we keep trying to reproduce that. And we do our body rituals, our habits to reproduce that excitation, to keep feeling that. And we keep going over and over until it becomes mechanical, methodical. Then we try to break it by stopping it. What you have to do is to find something that will excite you as much as that original response and change it at that moment. So what's the best thing? The thing that stimulated you in the beginning. Somebody hurts your feelings, and to solve that, you keep going back over the conversation over and over and over and over and over until the conversation keeps going over and over and over, and you're depressed by what they've said that keeps playing over and over in your mind. Now, if things are right and proper and God is in His kingdom, you are, aren't you? Yes. Why would He set up that procedure to go over and over and over? Because the very procedure by which happens to you, how you get into it, is the very same procedure how you get out. We call it psychoanalysis. We go back to you and analyze what happened so you can see clearly what happened and get out of it. So do it to yourself to start with. We don't solve the problem by going back over and back over and back over the hurt. We solve it by going to see what it is and say, aha, there's the hurt, and we turn and face the other direction. And we step clear. Then we step back and we look and we say, I see how I set myself up for that. I don't have to do that anymore. Then we say, now you're getting smart. Now you're learning. Then when something else happens again, we say, well, I'm in this problem. I keep going over and over and over. I keep going back and seeing that same guy. He does the same thing. I go over and over. I try to get away. I go away from him. It comes with me. It goes over and over. I go back to him. For what reason? To get out of it. That's why you go back. To see what it is. And you go back and you observe what they do to you, how they push your button. And then when they go to push your button, you say, deflect. And then they go crazy. And you stand there and watch them freak out. You say, it's interesting. When I didn't freak out, they did. Huh. And all along, I thought they were in control. It's just they hadn't had their moment on the stage. Now it's their time to entertain. How interesting. Going back over the problem and over it does not clear the problem. It ingrains the problem. We must get above the problem. Then we can observe the problem, and that observation allows us to spontaneously live in a state of intuitive awareness, and we can relax and be patient because it's all fine. Letting go and letting God. But we must be that instrumentation for our own good. We must cooperate. We must work with it. So we go and we see an old friend we haven't seen for a long time. And the last time we saw him, there was this emotional haranguing and the hurt feelings. And then we meet up with him again on that strange day. And we think, maybe this is a good thing. And before you know it, you're back in the same emotional haranguing. How do you handle that? There is no way to handle that while you're in that. But prior to that moment, you observe the action. And you say, instead of me reacting, I will observe that goes on. And that's called practice. And how are you going to have the practice unless you get occasions in which to practice? So you set yourself up many times in life to these occasions so you can practice your technique of observing, so you can get free when that trauma reappears. You observe it. And at that moment you have mastered the situation. But if you gloat and you flaunt the mastership, your ego takes over and your pride pushes your nose in it. Then you have to eat at what was prepared at the table in the presence of your enemy. Who likes that? I'm not too sure very many people do. We have a few choices in life. One choice is to choose righteousness. And when we do choose righteousness, we can no longer entertain the spirit of wrong, the spirit of wrongdoing inside of us will be pointed out to us by everyone. And then we feel so bad that we're so bad. You're not. You have just entertained a spirit of error. And when you sit back and relax and you start taking stock of it, and often a good way is to independently write down on paper so you can observe it out there. You get it out from you and you observe the process. And you say, by doing all these things, this bad thing will take place. And by doing all these things, all this bad things will take place. Then you determine whether you want to do the bad thing. And if I do all these things, this good will take place. And if I do all these things, this good will take place. And what is the reward for bad? Since it's bad, it can only produce bad. So there's no way out. And what is the reward for doing good? It can only be good, and that is its own reward. And so you live in a state of goodness because that's the place to live. For no other value. I never understood once a long time ago. I read a statement that said, virtue is its own reward. And I thought, how trite. How trite. Virtue is its own reward. The thing of it is, I didn't know what was virtue. Not being unvirtuous, I'd never had a chance to look at it. And I started observing people who did not have virtue in them, who had agony, and who had pain, and who had all sorts of disturbances. My God, they were hell on wheels. Everywhere they went, they had this portable hell that just hurt them. And I looked at them and I thought, if you just didn't have all of that, you'd feel good. And that would be good enough, just to feel good. And then it dawned on me, sure, virtue is its own reward. Absolutely. Good is its own reward. There's nothing else to have but that. Once you have that, what else is there? Ego gratification, pride, greed, lust? No, those are virtueless situations. So when you have virtue, you release the whole process and you let it go and you sit there free. And you feel contented. You don't have guilt. And you don't have hurt feelings. And you don't have fear of discovery. And you don't have fear of this or fear of that. And that good feeling, believe me, is God. Then you say, what else is there? And so then you work to maintain that. But how can you maintain something that is beyond your grasp? By observing what comes into you, spontaneously being alive, listen to the intuitive nature of your beingness, and let the awareness of life come into you, and from your past mistakes and the grief and the irritation, you have learned. And that pointing out of the error in you frees you, because you hurt so bad, you turn from it. And that's when we say, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll change. And often it takes that drastic moment inside of us where we give it up. And we actually fall back in a completely submissive state. And we say, oh God, I've had it. I can't do it. It's beyond me. And we cry. And we really cry. And we cry so hard that there's not even any more tears left. And we even give that up. And we are so totally exhausted, nothing can hang on to us. We can't even move. And then, maybe we've entered relaxation. And at that moment, we start becoming filled with the Spirit. At that moment, you must demand of Spirit. How do you demand of Spirit? Give it to me. No. That's a commandment. A demand is when, let me give you an example. When you're tired and you lie down to rest, to get your energy back, Spirit does not see a demand. It says, I see less need of energy. They're doing nothing. And takes away even that you have. And when you're tired, you think, I've got to go to bed and get my rest. Run around the block first. Run around the block fast. Run around that block vigorously, and you'll be so filled with energy you can't go to bed. Because Spirit has fulfilled your demand, but not your commandment. A demand is an action that's placed out there. People say, well, can I demand of Spirit more to help me pass my bar examination? I say, yes, if you demand of it. And they say, what do? I say, you open those books and you read it. And Spirit will come right through there and match with you. And if you put it under your pillow and sleep on it, Spirit goes away to where it's needed and wanted. And that's what I mean when I say you demand against it. Some of us demand against the food. And we demand inside of ourselves, and we fill ourselves up with food energy. and we don't use it. And if we would get up and demand of Spirit, we would start running, and that breath of life would come right into us, and we start energizing ourselves, and we use the energy of food for the body, and we use the energy of Spirit for ourselves. But we must demand of it by doing those actions that put Spirit on notice that you're involved with it. When you pray to God, and you command God, God, give me this, God, give me that, God, give me this, God, give me that. He says, who are you? You're just a sergeant. I got all sorts of people ranking above you. But when you pray, you get out and demonstrate the need, and Spirit supplies it. And often, all we have to do is confess it out loud. I need a job. By putting that out to somebody or writing a note to them, we are starting to demand against that. And often it takes a while, because we think it should come in when we think it should, instead of letting it come in when it's going to. But it won't come in if you demand of it. So you go to bed so tired, and you haven't done anything all day long, and you lay in bed and you toss and turn all night long until finally early in the morning you fall asleep. Why? What happened? You had to wear yourself out, so Spirit could put the energy in to relax you. And so that tossing and turning was your physical exercise before you could get to sleep. Get up and do jumping jacks or push-ups. Get up and do a lot of that. A lot of exercise till you're really tired. When you're honestly tired, and you then rest, Spirit places itself with you, and you have the oneness, and you fall into rest. Other than that, you're always separated, because you're dealing with the food energies of the body and the neglect of the mind and the procrastination and the emotions. And then you say, why can't I sleep? Say, you have not demanded of sleep. So I go to bed, I've been in bed all day long. I know. It's not sure what time you want to go to sleep. Then you only go to bed, and you only go onto that bed and lie down when you are intent to entire sleep all night long. You don't do it all day long. You sit in a chair, you lie down someplace else, and you never lie down in your bed for relaxation. That's for sleep. And it works. And it works more and more the more you work it, the more you get out and demand of it. If you're after money for motion picture film and you demand of Spirit, that means you start knocking on the doors, and you start going to the people, and you start talking to them, and you start presenting to them, and Spirit fills it. And then they recognize the Spirit and they join. And that's what you wanted all along. But if you think, well, they're supposed to see that it's good, oh, are they? That's rare, that anybody sees anything good. They have to be sold on it good. You say, well, it's pretty good, and I think you'd enjoy it. It's nice. What's the demand? Well, can't you see the demand? No, you're submitting. Yelling doesn't do it. It is that energy inside of you that moves you into it. Then it supplies itself. We have to have the wit, because it's not all just invisible spirit. We have this cohesive spirit that we can look at. It has to respond. And the more we respond to that eminence of spirit, the more we enter into it and become the divine counterpart of our own beingness. And we live in both planes simultaneously. But we must continually work the level that is to be worked, and exist in the level that is to be existed in. Spirit is existence. The physical level is work. Berush Beshan.